Today, in this tutorial, we will be discussing introductions to CADing and creating CAD files for a robot assembly, whether that be a full robot or a drivetrain, a prototype, but anything that is not a custom part that you would, say, 3D print or CNC, laser cut, etc. I'm from the Bots and Black team 16633. And let's get right into it. So first of all, we will just go ahead and sign into our CAD software, Onshape. Sign in. Onshape I use. It's the FTC recommended one. It's a pretty good app. Very easy to use. And so right now I'm signed in to my CAD. I'm on the dashboard. So first of all, we can make a new document. Say, in this case, we're going to CAD a drivetrain as an example project. So first, I would need to create a new document, of course, to hold this file. Let's call it Ultimate Goal Drivetrain. Okay, and then with Onshape, you get a Part Studio, Assembly. It's pretty general for every CAD software, SolidWorks, Fusion 360, or like I'd like to call it, Confusion 360. So now that we have our document, we can start. Of course, you need to have parts to assemble in order to create, in our case, a drivetrain. As with a full robot, you need the parts, you need the chassis. Say you need the shooter, like the frame, the linear slider, say for the wobble goal, whatever you need to do. You can't really custom create C-channels, wheels, all that stuff. So we have to get the step files, which is basically CAD files, from external parts providers such as Rev Robotics, Tetrix, GoBuilda, Actobotics, ServoCity, everything. Even Andy Mark sometimes. Okay, so if we're gonna do a drivetrain, let's just do a basic Tetrix drivetrain with C channels for the base, mechanism wheels, and 20:1 motors from Rev. So it's a kind of standard chassis. And so first of all, let's just get our frame, which we're using Tetrix C channels. So that would be from Pittsco, which is the company that makes Tetrix. So we go on to their website, which for any part you need to get, you go onto the company's website. It's pretty easy to find. You just search it up, GoBuilda, say, and it'll pop up. And it's the same procedure for almost every site. You'll search up in the search bar your part. So we need C channels. So we need C channel. Oops. Searches, and we find that we have the C channels right here. We can ignore. This is not even. This looks like the FTC kit, but it's not. So we have our Tetrix C channels. I don't know why they're called Max channels. Usually called U or C channels. Doesn't matter. Okay, now for every site, almost every site is gonna have a CAD file. I'm not sure about Long Robotics. I do not think they have CAD files, but you never know. So every site is gonna have a download section, or a place where you can find the step files. So it should be pretty straightforward to find if you're just scrolling around. So we can immediately see right off the bat that we have a downloads toggle thing section right here that brings us down to the download section. And since this when you buy this, it comes with multiple C channels, not just an individual channel. You get the parts because it's the different sizes. You get the step file parts for each length of the C channel, each part. We have a 32mm, 96mm, and so on. Say for a drivetrain, we would need a 416mm channel. So we just downloaded, of course, pretty straightforward. Press download, and it will download appear. Windows 10 or Mac, it'll come up on the bottom if you're using Chrome. Or it'll save to your File Explorer /Finder. If you're using Linux, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, but in my case, I will be saving it to a USB drive. So this is a standard procedure, but I will just save link as to save it to the drive. Oh, I didn't even select it. Never mind. Let's just keep to doing these direct download. Okay, we downloaded our file. Now we need to, even though they're on our computer, on our local storage, we need to bring it into Onshape to use with this file so we can assemble it. Because we can't, there's no way, at least in Onshape, to insert parts from your local storage if it's not in a document. What you have to do is we go to the Onshape dashboard, the main screen, and we go to create. This should be straightforward for any other software. Create, upload, anything. Go import files, and we can find our step file right here. 460mm channel, that seems right. We upload it. Just follow the standard default. We don't need to orient it. Usually you would ignore that. Most cases in FTC you don't need to do that. Import into a single document because there's no reason to import into multiple documents. It's all one part. Okay, and then it uploads, and we can see that it has appeared right here. Okay, now that we have it in our Onshape account, we can go back to our document and go to insert or upload or whatever for your CAD software. And we go into other documents since it's in another document. And we can go to my Onshape because it's in my Onshape. We find our 460mm channel. And there's parts in CAD and Onshape at least. You have part studios and assemblies. Assemblies are assemblies, of course, of different parts made in part studios, usually. Part studios are just the part that are made by doing sketches and such. So we insert, go back. Okay, and it's generating a preview, but there's no assembly. Since this is a single part, it's a C channel, there's not multiple parts that create the actual part. Say like a motor has multiple parts, a lot of parts in fact, inside it. It's not just one thing, as if this is one piece of structure, piece of material. So it is a part studio, but it'll differ for each part. So we can, even though it's still generating a preview, it's most likely just this little thing right here, because you can't upload this into here. It's just a toggle. Okay, now we have our C channel. We can insert it again, dragging it over, because we need 4 for structure. Not necessarily, but it's always better. Okay, now we have our frame parts included in the CAD. Now we need wheels, motors, and I will get to the rest later. So we will be using mechanism wheels. I will get them off of Rev, and I will get the motors off of Rev. So for Rev Robotics, you just go to revrobotics.com. You can search in the store, like from every supplier, and we'll say mechanism wheel, because that is what we're looking for. And we find the most viable option, the mechanism wheel. This is not a mechanism wheel, in case you didn't know. Mechanism wheel, and so for Rev, it's almost the same as Tetrix. You can just scroll down, of course, on every supplier, and you see CAD. CAD and download's the same thing. You're downloading CAD on Tetrix, but here's the actual CAD files. They're the exact same thing. And we see 2 files. I would just ignore that. 57, of course, has to be a later file, so I would download the 57. And of course, we don't need the Rev parts library since we're only importing one thing, the wheel. Download, if you click on it, it will download. Same as the download button for Tetrix. We see it pops up here. Same as those. Okay, now we can do the same process. We go into our Onshape dashboard, import files, and we can see the rev.step file. We upload it, import a stable document, default settings. It's uploading. Oh, I'm still recording, good. Still recording. Okay, it's uploaded. Go back to our drivetrain file assembly, and we can do insert other documents, my Onshape, and we find a rev file. Okay, so for mechanism wheels, since it's kind of a complicated piece, you have the rollers, the frame of the mechanism wheel, screws, so on. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, of course, like the C channel is one part that is just manufactured with holes in it. As a mechanism wheel needs to be assembled. So when you download the file, it is an assembly. I think it did not download correctly. Sometimes in when you're doing CAD software and you don't leave it a while to download, it won't download properly, or other things could happen. So don't worry, we'll just re-download it. Okay, we'll re-upload it. Okay, we'll just, instead of going immediately into it, just let it translating. You need to let it translate. That is an important thing, because otherwise it can't translate the data, the part, into your Onshape. Now I will play a waiting theme song. Okay, now it is translated successfully. We've waited for it. It is finished, and it will be imported successfully. We can go back into our drivetrain document, go into other documents, or wait, we need to go out to refresh. We go into my Onshape. Okay, go to my Onshape. We find our second rev mechanism wheel file. The naming is weird, but if you know that is rev and you just download it, it should be pretty straightforward. You can always rename the document in Onshape. We can rename it. Rename document. Okay, so now you can see, as I have told you, there are a bunch of parts. Before it would generate the preview and you could see the part, but it is mostly just ball bearings, some random stuff. But we're not going to import these little parts into Onshape. We need to import the full mechanism wheel. So we can go into assemblies, and this is when we would need a thing to look at, a preview. But another thing we can do is go back into documents, go into the file, and we can find the assemblies and look at each one. Oh, so we see that this is the assembly, the Rev 411657. So we can remember this. This is a full assembly. It has a mechanism wheel. We don't even need to look any further. It's the full mechanism wheel. So we just remember the name, 1657 Rev 41. We go through 1657. There it is. Okay. We can insert it, and we drag it over, and it'll show it. Put it right there. Let's insert 4 more, because of course we need 4 mechanism wheels in order to stay up on the ground. Okay, one. Then our last one. As always, you can speed me up or slow me down with the YouTube playback speed if you would like me to go faster or slower. Okay, now we have our mechanism wheels, but an important thing when CADing is that the mechanism wheels are made up of different parts in the assembly, but they are not fixed together. Say I wanted to drag this mechanism wheel over to the C channel. If I tried and drag it, it would take out the part that I selected. We don't want that. So the solution to this is you must you get out the group tool, you press hold on a spot that where you can drag the box, kind of similar if you played on a Windows desktop where you can drag and bring out the mouse and it'll create a box. We can do the same thing in CAD where we want to highlight the whole thing with the dragging box, and once we know that we've gotten the whole thing in the box, we can select group. Now, when we try and move the mechanism wheel, it moves as a whole, which is what we want. So we can quickly go do this. Okay, now we have all of our groups. Okay, now since we have all of our groups, we can assemble it onto, we will need motors. So that is our almost final step. So we can go back to Rev, and we're going to use a Rev motor, HD hex motor. So we can search a motor even to get it even more general. We don't want the Neo, that is for FRC. Core hex motor will not, is more of like a servo kind of functionality. HD hex motor is good for driving. We have the different options up here, which we will. So if you scroll down, it's the same as the other the Rev site for the mechanism wheel. We can find the CAD, and we get the different CAD files for the different parts, because the 20:1 and the 40:1 spur gearbox, they're different parts. We have a different gearbox for each, and of course a bare motor is also different. The spur motor is out of stock, but that would also we'd have. Okay, so for planetary, we want a planetary gearbox because we can mount it. We can mount it easily. The mechanism wheel. It's a lot easier. Okay, we can find the 20:1 planetary gearbox. We click on it, and it starts a download file. Perfect. We go back into Onshape. We went into this file for the mechanism wheel, so we can go back, do the same thing. Import files. Find our newest one, which is Rev 1211. Import single document. Let it upload. More waiting music for translation. Perfect, it's translated. Now we can, we have the file here. We go back into our drivetrain. We do another insert. Their documents, Onshape. Find our file. The same thing is the same thing for the motor. You have the different parts, the encoder, base plate, the top, PCB, all sorts of stuff. And usually you would get a preview, so it's much easier to see what is happening, but we don't have a preview. So of course we'll go into assemblies and we find this is most likely it. We don't want the PCB assembly or the encoder-based case assembly. We want the rev motor assembly. So we can click on it, bring it over, and perfect. We have our motor. I do not know what is happening with that little box there. Oh, there we go. It's kind of translated into CAD. Perfect. It looks like a normal motor. That's perfect. We can press insert, and I'll show you another way to create 4 more motors. We will group the motor, of course, as always. And also you can highlight first and then group. That also works. So now we have this motor. We can move it around. Cool. If we click on it, or if we hover over the full thing, we can do Control-C to copy. And then we can hover anywhere and do Control-V. We'll create another motor. So we need 4 motors for a mechanism drivetrain. Of course, you can't drive a mechanism drivetrain with only 2 motors. Okay, now we just need to group these, because if we move these over, they still come apart. Okay, let's get a good view in order to group these. This is decent. You know what? Let's Control-Z all of these, and we can just paste them in better. We still have a group here, so let's bring this over. Let's go right here and paste. Okay, we have our 4 motors. These are not grouped, so we will need a group, boom. Another group. Okay, we have our 8 groups. We have everything grouped. Now we have a full assembly almost. We just need motor mounts. So now I will show you a much easier way to use CAD and getting parts and how to eliminate the process of finding the part on the site and downloading it, uploading it, so on. It's always a viable option. You can always do this if it fits your needs. It's pretty easy, it's pretty straightforward. But what you can also do is buy the kit, is download the kit files. And then if you have it in if you have it in your Onshape, you can access it for every single CAD file you do, and you will never need to re-upload it and kind of have an unorganized Onshape. So I've done this before, where if we go down, Tetrix FTC kit of parts. This has all of the FTC parts and the Tetrix kit all in a CAD file, which is pretty cool. And what we can do is we can download the kit from Tetrix. We need a Tetrix kit. You can download the Rev kit too, because you can see complete Rev parts library. We don't need the full Rev parts, but we usually need an FTC kit. So to be safe, search up the FTC kit and start a kit v3. You can search up the kit and then downloads. I don't think. Where's the download? We can see here at the bottom, complete Rev parts library. We would click on that and download it, but for time's sake and storage, I will not download it. It's the same straightforward thing. And then for Pitsco, for Tetrix, we can search up FTC kit, and it will come up. FTC First Tech Challenge competition set. If we go down, we find the FTC competition kit CAD file. We can download this, and it's a zip file. So if it's a zip file, we will need to go into our file explorer and extract it. Perfect FTC build materials. It's just the parts. You can ignore this. We go into our Onshape. Open up our Onshape. Open link in new tab. If we go on our downloads, we find this folder that we've created. Bill of materials. And what you do is you highlight. Actually, I'm pretty sure what you can do to make this even more organized is create a new folder, say Tetrix Kit Parts. We have our Tetrix Kit Parts. If we navigate to this, we can import the files then. And then you're gonna want to go into the files, and you're gonna want to select all of them. You can do Control and press on each one, or you can just do the box thing. It's pretty straightforward for Mac too. Linux. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, I didn't even select it. Sorry about that. Okay. Open. And if we import it into a single document, it will import all of the assemblies and part studios into one document, which is very nice, because this is going to take a very long time. So I'm going to pause the recording and come back.